Executive Suites with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi. Glad to have you here for our first show of the new year and our third year doing the show we're going to get into this year. Later on, we're going to talk to the head of the Quonset Business Park, the Quonset Development Corporation, because they just marked 10,000 jobs, more than 10,000 jobs down there in that area as it grows and grows. So we're going to hear about how that worked and why. But first, I'm very pleased to be joined by the co-founder and CEO of Splitwise. It's a Providence-based startup that has an app you're going to hear about that helps you figure out how to, you're out to dinner with your friends, trying to figure out how to split the bill. It helps you with that and a lot of other things too. So we're going to hear from Jon about that. Jon, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted.
And part of why I have you is you just raised $1.4 million from investors. You've already been on the Time list of the 50 best iPhone apps. So you have some credibility here on this. But first, for people who haven't heard of you before, what is Splitwise? What do you do?
So we help people stop stressing about money in interpersonal relationships. I mean, I've met so many people who tell me, money is I hate talking about money with my friends. It's the most stressful thing. I talk about whether it's your roommates who you're living with, maybe your significant other, boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife, or if you're just going on a big group trip, maybe this time of year, a ski trip up in Vermont with your family or New Hampshire. People just don't like talking about money, and it's an awkward part of life. So we are an app that solves that and makes it not stressful to deal with money with your friends and family.
And you've been doing it a couple of years now, right?
Yeah. We've been a company for 3 years, and we started the very first version of Splitwise 4 years ago almost.
And I think it was called Split the Rent, right?
Yeah, we just started by helping roommates decide how to split rent fairly between each other,
So give me a little sense, we're seeing some of it on screen there of how it works. How would you actually, can you give me a case study? How would you actually use Splitwise?
Right, so here's how it works. Let's say that we're living in an apartment together, perhaps with some of the other guests, maybe a bachelor pad or something, and the four of us go out, one of us buys groceries. So if I went to buy groceries, it was $100. I would type in maybe Whole Foods, $100, split with, and then I would tag each of the people who I was splitting with. So it's sort of like tagging a bill like it's a Facebook photo, and it creates an IOU between the people who weren't there, who didn't pay for it, and the people who did. You can split things 60-40, you can split things 50-50, you can split things any way you'd like, but it just defaults to splitting equally. You can almost imagine it like friend-to-friend bookkeeping, really, really simple, really lightweight, on a phone, on the website.
Now, can the app make your deadbeat buddy actually pay you back when you buy the beer that night or whatever?
Oh, well, we can't change who your friends are, but what we can do is we can help you remind them, we can help you keep up to date, explain to them why they owe you, and you'll know that you're not going to lose track of who paid last week. A lot of friends use it when they're going out to the bar or a restaurant. If they go with the same group often, it's really convenient to just put it in Splitwise, forget about it until the next week.
So it does more than the calculator app, because you could just split it that way, but this does a lot more with the bookkeeping, it sounds like.
Right, exactly. It's for keeping track of things over time, especially if you're doing a lot of bills with the same people. That's why couples and roommates like it so much.
Now, you're not the first one to have an idea for an app like this, but obviously you guys have had some stability. You've been written up all over the place. I saw a life hack article today about them recommending it to people trying to figure this out.
Well, yeah, we're very lucky and grateful for all our users who are using it. I think we started the company at a special time, right when the iPhone and Android apps were still pretty new, and got the jump out early. We've also, the way that we started with Split the Rent and helping people not just do the calculation, which a lot of people have been there to help with, but also helping people figure out what's fair and trying to remove the social awkwardness part of it. We think of ourselves as an awkwardness reduction company more than a calculator, and I think that's been a good angle that people have responded to.
Now, you're actually an astrophysicist by training. That's what you were doing.
By training, yeah. I never got my PhD, so I wouldn't call myself one now.
Well, you're more so than an astrophysicist, I would say. So how did you ever plan? Did you ever think, I'll probably end up running a company that builds iPhone apps? You just saw there was a need and you decided, I'm going to make a company out of this?
It was sort of an accident, to be honest. I was studying in graduate school, and I had written my first paper about astrophysics, and it didn't really do very well. People didn't really respond to it, at least right away. So I was kind of bummed, and over winter break, I cooked up the first version of the app that would help you split rent with your roommates, and that just got a huge response. I sent it to my friends. One of them told me to send it to this blogger who I didn't know. I emailed the blogger, and all of a sudden everyone was talking about it. It was like one of these overnight crazy things, and I just couldn't stay as excited about my astrophysics studies because I had people who wanted me to help them keep track of their shared expenses. It was so fun.
Now, I can imagine people listening saying, all right, sounds cool, it sounds useful, but what's the business model? How do you actually make money off this? So what is the business model? What's the idea behind this as a business?
Right. So, we make money right now in two different ways. One is through advertising. We have some advertising on the website. We also do have a premium version of Splitwise, so a certain percentage of our user base kindly pays us a monthly subscription fee for some special features on Splitwise, like currency conversion and more powerful graphs and expense search. But with a lot of internet businesses, we are not trying to make as much money as we can right now. We're focused on growing the user base and getting to be a big app that everyone uses pretty much on their phone, or a big percentage of the population would like to use. And a lot of the best internet companies have been formed that way. So we do make money, but we're not trying to really right now.
Now, we're coming up on break, but before we do that, I have to say I've heard sometimes, especially in recent years, I've heard a little pushback toward that idea that, well, some of these companies, they build an amazing app, but they never had the revenue model to really make it a sustainable business. I mean, is it something that, is it in the back of your head that, okay, we have to make sure we get to a certain point with that, or is it really, do you think, primarily focusing on a good user experience and usage will lead you there?
Yeah, I mean, Ted, definitely every company has to make money or it will go out of business. But unlike a lot of traditional businesses, we don't have to do any advertising. We don't have to do any, we don't buy advertisements. We don't have any salespeople. And when the users use the app, the computer does the work. So we try and focus on making the app as the best we can. And because it's less expensive to run our business than a lot of other businesses, we can afford to wait. And that is an important question. I hope we solve it even better than we're solving it now. But yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear more about how Splitwise went through beta spring and what they're going to do with the new money they earned. And later on, we'll hear about Quonset. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about the 10,000th job at Quonset Business Park, the old base that has now become a hub of industry. But right now, we're talking with the co-founder and CEO of Splitwise, an app that helps you figure out how to split your expenses up. You can find it on the App Store for Android and iPhone, right?
Correct.
And that's Jon Bittner. And Jon, you also have another app that's part of Splitwise called Plates, which I could also see people wanting. Tell us about Plates.
So the idea with Plates was you're sitting at the dinner table, and let's say you don't drink. I don't know if you drink or not, but if you don't drink...
I do. I'm a reporter. We all drink.
Oh, well, some of my friends don't drink, and if they don't have any drink, and the rest of us are having a good time, perhaps we have 2 or 3 beers, it is, maybe they're the designated driver, it is not fun to split the bill, because you are talking about, well, that those $20 of cocktails, I don't really want to be on the hook for that. So the idea with Plates, it was actually the idea of a Brown student named Liz New, who is now in California, but she created this idea that, well, what if you could just itemize part of the bill? That was sort of our inspiration. So instead of having to say, okay, well, what did you get the salad? Did you get the burger? No one really likes doing that. Some people do, and you can use Plates to do that. But the inspiration for the app was, how would you just deal with the things that that people are calling out as a big problem, like people who don't drink, or maybe I just had a soup because I'd already eaten, something like that. So Plates just does, it's a calculator. It does the math, and it does the math in a really organized way, so you don't have to do the whole bill with a big calculator.
I can see the use for that, absolutely. Now, Splitwise, the reason you're here, you went through Beta Spring, the startup incubator. How important was Beta Spring to getting the company started?
It was really important. We'd already actually created the first version of our app, but what we hadn't done was incorporate as a company. We didn't have any legal help. We didn't have any money. We were just doing it in our spare time. I was still a student, so were my co-founders. Well, one of them was. The other was looking for the next project. And we didn't pay ourselves until we joined Beta Spring. We didn't really know how to approach investors. And Beta Spring moved us to Providence, introduced us to our first big investor, and yeah, it was really instrumental. And
Beta Spring's on hiatus right now. Do you think it's important that it continues, that it comes back and does another round to the Providence startup community?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to them putting it back online. I think it's really wonderful to have that flow of entrepreneurs, talented people with ideas coming into the city. It helps with, all entrepreneurs kind of benefit when there's a certain critical mass of people who are just talking about startups, talking about technology, bringing, whether it's hardware or software, keeping everyone energized, really.
Now, you didn't have to stay in Providence. Why did you decide that you should really put roots down here after the Brady Spring experience was over and all that, and stay in as a Providence company?
Well, we love Providence. I mean, I think we stayed here ultimately because we build an app on the internet, and where we are is really about what makes our team happy and can enable our team to grow. And Providence has an amazing quality of life. It's not as expensive as Boston, which is where we were from. And it's close by to all the major hubs, Boston, New York. We have a wonderful airport. I go to San Francisco quite frequently, but it is just a wonderful place to base the company. It's a lot easier to focus here than it is in a bigger city. There's a lot less noise of events that are, that don't really help advance your company's goals.
Now, you mentioned San Francisco. Teespring, another Providence startup, has opened an office
Providence
out
startup
there, though they still have plenty of people here too. Do you feel a pull that you need a second office in Boston, in San Francisco, or something? Could you see that day coming, or do you think you'd keep roots here in Providence even if you did that?
That day might come, but we're really trying to keep our roots here, and we'd like to keep the whole company in Providence if we can. And I think unlike Teespring, which needs a lot of sales staff and support staff, at least for now, Splitwise is going to stay a pretty small company, and we can really base the company wherever the right people are. So hopefully I can recruit a bunch of people from Boston to move down here, or take advantage of the local tech talent.
So you just raised, as I mentioned, $1.4 million seed money from investors. What's the money for? What are you going to do with it? What's the plan?
So we're investing right now in making the app even simpler. I think a lot about my father-in-law is a wonderful fellow, and he is not using.
Better say that while you're on TV, right?
Of course. And he's not using Splitwise yet, and I think he should be. And I think about what could I be doing to get people who aren't young professionals living in their first few apartments to start using Splitwise the way I think they should be. So we're hiring. The answer is we're using the money to hire a few engineers. We're going to keep improving our app, increasing our growth, and taking Splitwise to the next level.
And finally, before we go to the break, I have to ask, we have new state leaders taking office this week. So much talk about how to improve the economy, have more entrepreneurship, et cetera. Any advice from them, or anything you hear about a lot in the startup community that could really make a difference, make it more a friendly place for entrepreneurs like yourself to start their companies?
Right. Well, I can speak best to tech entrepreneurship, which is different than other kinds of entrepreneurship. But in tech, the most important variables are talent and capital, and quality of life. And I think we have a wonderful quality of life. I hope they continue to invest and improve that. And I think whether it's education or immigration or whatever is necessary to make sure that, or even just reputation, whatever is necessary to make sure that Rhode Island is seen as a wonderful place to be, that'll help with people recruiting the best talent in the world. And capital, I'm not going to say that they should be too involved in that, but I do think we're connected to a lot of capital markets in the U.S. and abroad, so I think it's good for them to focus on those first two.
All right, Jon Bittner, co-founder and CEO of Splitwise. You can get the app. You can also get plates, especially if you're going out to dinner tonight. You might want to get it before you head out the door. Thank you so much for being here. Don't go away, though. When we come back, we're going to hear about the success of Quonset and how they hit more than 10,000 jobs. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and pleased to be joined for this segment by Steve King. He is the managing director of the Quonset Business Corporation, or Quonset Development Corporation, which runs the Quonset Business Park.
Exactly.
Right, gotta get my acronyms straight there. So Quonset Development Corporation. And Steve, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ted.
Happy New Year to you.
And
you just had a big event, as I mentioned, 10,000 jobs. Tell me about who was the 10,000th job?
So how great is that, right? So we had a young man named Justin Jay who works at a company called Amwins Group Benefits. And he was the gentleman that we honored as the 10,000th employee of the Quonset Business Park.
Are you sure he was 10,000?
He was close. He was close. So we have best available information from the companies that tell us who they hire and so forth. And we estimated the time that we would have passed the 10,000th number. And he's the young man that we.
Now I know he had to listen to a lot of speeches from politicians, but did he get anything else for the honor of being the 10,000?
Well, we gave him a nice plaque honoring him as the 10,000th employee, and he had some good exposure. So
he's lucky he has a job.
I think he enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's good. So So give people a sense for folks who aren't as familiar with Quonset, the scale of, of course it was the old Navy base and that land that was freed up. How big is it and how many companies are there now? Right,
so it's a 3,212 acre facility. So you put that in perspective, it's about half the size of the city of Providence. And it encompasses, there are today 195 companies that employ 10,248 people.
It's really almost a small municipality of its own, right?
It is, right? Because we have our own wastewater treatment facilities and water distribution facilities, and we run the streets and the public works and all those things. So it's all.
Who are the biggest companies now? I think Electric Boat always comes to mind.
Right.
It's not just EB, right? Who are some of the big names?
Right, so hands down EB, right? And then second would be Tory Plastics America, Hexagon Metrology, Ocean State Job Lot, NORAD. There's a lot of bigger companies in there, and then there's a whole host of others like Dominion Diagnostics or Haywood Pools and the like.
Now, is there a certain type of company that uses Quonset? Is it all big industrial, big manufacturing? You know, when everyone pictures EB, they picture guys around submarines and everything. Is it everyone doing that kind of work, or are there different types?
It's a lot of things. So a lot of manufacturing, like you say, heavy manufacturing, but we have a lot of light manufacturing. Like I mentioned, Haywood, they make pool components and it's more light manufacturing, things of that nature. But we do have engineers, we have lawyers, we have accountants, we have those type of service providers. We have the auto import business. We have warehouse distribution jobs. Everything under the spectrum is at Quonset.
How big a role has taxpayer money played? Obviously, this was a federal base back in the day before Phil Nolan got that bad news in the 70s that it was going to close down. Are these, subsidized jobs? People always wonder about that piece of it.
No, well, the jobs were all private industry jobs. The state investment comes into what was invested in the real estate to reposition it from a Navy base into what it is today. So there's a series of bond issues that the voters approved over the years. There was about $80 million over the time since 1974 to today that's gone into that investment. There's also been significant leverage on federal grants and federal monies coming into the park. So the feds alone have invested $600+ million in the state, through the bond issues, about $80 million. And then the revenues that QDC derives from the business park, a lot of that gets reinvested as well.
Is the place built out, basically? Do you see more big capital projects, more big infrastructure projects for Quonset, or is it really, it's built finally to what they've envisioned?
Right, I think the real bones of the place, if you'd say, are put in place. We do have some capital work yet to do to provide utility services, maybe to a certain parcel or something like that. But the heavy lifting is all done at this point.
It's all done. Got the highway, which was big, I know, and everything. What's on tap this year, 2015? We did have last year Green Corp, the Irish company. They're going to make sandwiches are coming there. I know they're opening this year, right?
They are. So they're rapidly coming to a close with their project. They want to get their factory open here at the end of February. They're going to be hiring 400+ workers soon. So I invite everybody to check out QuonsetJobs.com. There's 24 jobs there today for people, and Green Corp's behind 400 more. So there'll be a lot of opportunity there to look for that. So we look forward to their opening and coming on board. We also have Adicia as the company that creates the nutritional food
Another
supplement.
guest we had in the past. I think what's her name again?
Naven Salem.
Right? Naven Salem. They're making the food for folks overseas.
Right. So she's going to come and build an 85,000-foot plant. They're going to be breaking ground here in the spring. So we're looking forward to that.
And also Martin Keene, right, with the desks, the stand-up desks. I think he's moved down there as well.
He has. So he took a space in an existing building for the focal upright furniture. Doing a great job.
Now, one thing I want to ask, we talk about the growth, 10,000 jobs, all these companies. Flip side is Quonset is not actually limitless, even though it's half the size of the city of Providence. I mean, how full is the place? How much room is left for additional companies to come to Quonset?
So there are about 250 acres of land left, and put that in perspective, that would house about 3 million square feet of building space. So significant opportunity. There are sites that range from 2 acres all the way to 56 acres, and we could accommodate buildings anywhere up to 400 to 500,000 square feet.
Now, do you see it? You do, I think, have a couple retailers there at the front end. Do you see more of that? Do you think it'll be primarily industrial, corporate uses?
Right. So we have a master plan that governs the development of the park, and it's really centered on business development and industrial type use, as you mentioned. The retail component's really mixed use. There is a hotel, a museum, a daycare center, and some of the other stuff. And that was really, they provide some amenities for the 10,000+ workers. They have a place to grab lunch, do some errands and things of that nature. So that's really focused up on Post Road, where we integrate into North Kingstown. Provides a kind of a front to the park that's familiar to the community.
Now, you mentioned the amount of acreage left, but it's also the question of where is the acreage? Do you have big parcels left? If someone like, maybe not an EB, but someone big wanted to come in, is there enough room left, or is it going to be mostly smaller scale at this point?
Well, that's what I mentioned. We can fit, the largest parcel is 56 acres, and we could build up to 500,000 square feet on that site. The remainder of the sites are from 10 acres or less. So there's not a lot of option for big footprint development, but most of the bread and butter development we've seen has been in the 40,000 foot building range that fits on a 5-6 acre lot that might house 50 to 60 people in their company. So a lot of opportunity for those type of folks.
How are you feeling about interest in coming to Quonset, building at Quonset right now compared? You've been in this job a number of years now.
Yes, I have. Yes.
So how does it compare at the moment to what you've had in the past in terms of inquiries and such?
Right, so I think we're starting to ramp up a little bit. In 05, 06, it was tremendous. You know, the economy was really humming along, and then we fell off a cliff in 08. It's taken a little time to get back, but the last year we absorbed 70 acres in the park, so we had a really good 2014. We're looking forward to a great 2015.
So you're getting people are calling, people are checking,
calling,
serious inquiries?
Yep.
So we'll carry. You're not giving any of that away right now, which I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of talk. People are looking at the 195 parcel further up in the city of Providence, actually. And some people have said, why don't we look to Quonset? Why has Quonset been able to attract companies despite all we hear about Rhode Island? People are, and they often say they're happy with the process there. Would you have any advice for the folks running the 195 process, and what worked, what made development happen and sort of smooth at Quonset that maybe could be replicated up in Providence at 195?
Well, I think they're doing a lot of things. I have spoken with them, and I think the thing you mentioned is process. So certainty of process is the #1 thing that you can garner for the development community.
What does that mean for folks at home? Yeah.
So that means that they know how they're going to get a building permit and have the right to go build their buildings and proceed with their project. I mean, land use is very complicated, especially in New England, right? We have a lot of local boards and commissions and those type of things. And, you know, the 195 Commission has their own authorities, but they are in the city of Providence. So my advice would be to work very closely with the city. They don't want to get in a position where they have a project and then the city may have an objection. So they need to be in concert. We lived through that in North Kingstown. And you know, North Kingstown's been a great partner for us, and most recently we've developed a situation where they have a zoning district that is Quonset.
Now, do you think, could Rhode Island create another Quonset somewhere? You know, people would love to have another 10,000 jobs somewhere else, but it was kind of a unique situation to have all this empty land.
Exactly was. So it was a military reuse, right? So the military base was there. If you looked at what the federal government invested, I'm sure to build Quonset in 1939, that's a pretty heavy lift. So I think there are a lot of opportunities to build a lot of strategic sites that may be able to fit future industrial pads for buildings, and that's probably how we should look at it. Go community by community, identify 1 or 2 sites where we could put larger development, where they would agree to it and buy into it, and work with a portfolio of real estate.
For folks, what's an industrial pad? Some people might not know the language.
So it's just a piece of land that's pre-permitted and ready to go for you to build industrial plant on.
So that's something local municipal officials could do on their own potentially?
They could, but I think, you know, the landowners need some assistance. You know, we were able to do that at Quonset because the state owns the land, so when we invest into our site readiness program, we're investing in our own asset. So, you know, to ask private landowners to put money at risk to go invest in some type of program like that is a little bit of a reach. So if we had a program where we could help folks along, that would probably be helpful.
All right, we only about 30 seconds left. You have a new governor, Gina Raimondo, taking over. Have you spoken with her at all about Quonset? Does it fit into her vision?
I saw her recently at the 10,000 event, so she's very excited to get going. We're very excited to have her, and we look forward to working together.
All right, so saying the right things as we get off to a new start. All right, Stephen King, Managing Director of the Quonset Development Corp. Remind people again the website where the jobs can be found.
QuonsetJobs.com.
And that's all the different jobs that are available.
That's the jobs that we know are available at the Quonset Business Park.
All right, QuonsetJobs.com. Sounds like there'll be some more of them coming on this year with Green Court. Thanks for joining us as always on Executive Suite. If you missed any of this show or any other episode, you can catch all of those on our website, WPRI.com. I'm Ted Nisi. I'll see you back here next week on Executive Suite.